Yes, people, welcome back to Inside Devils, the show that keeps you bang up to date with everything coming inside and out of Old Trafford. And guess what? There are more points being shipped out of Old Trafford because people are coming to Old Trafford and having field days. They are 3-point collectors at will. Manchester United have lost another game at home in the Premier League. The slump continues. And now people are talking about relegation battles. So we have to talk, guys. Welcome back to the show. Let us know how you're feeling in the comments. Let us know what you're thinking about the team. Let's get straight into this. Angelina is joining me. Crookie is joining me. Angelina, wow. That's like, wow.
Bad, innit?
Yeah?
It's bad.
Wow. That's what we got.
It was just that loss against Newcastle. Don't get me wrong. I know that we spoke and we were going into it. Expectations weren't high. But the thing that's getting me is we were walking away from games. Maybe we weren't winning them, but we could take something tangible from it. There was something positive from it. Whereas that game was horrific. It was absolutely horrific. It's some of the worst football that I've seen. That first goal, Crookie, I know you've already been on air talking about Lisandro Martinez. That first goal, how have we got 3 centre-backs that are experienced enough, maybe not the best, but experienced enough to know better? How have they messed that up? Surely one of the first things in, a pre-match meeting is, this guy, Alexander Isak, he's pretty good at the minute. We need to maybe, keep an eye on you. Basics. And it's so hard. It really is hard. And I know that there's all this discussion about Ruben Amorim and his tactics and his system and his ideas. And the way things are going, I'm worried. Is he going to start falling into Big Ange territory of sticking to your guns on something? I understand that he doesn't want to change his idea, but maybe I'm just not looking at it the right way. But I feel like an idea and a mentality and things like that is different to your formation. So, we've got people like Dallo and Mazraoui. They are not wing-backs. They're not very good wing-backs, let's be honest. They are competent enough full-backs, I would think. Do we have to switch it to 4 at the back? I don't know, but it seems like he is not for budging from what he said. But I also worry about how long this can go on, and I wonder how long it can go on because we have a very unstable ownership that are ruthless, and by ruthless, they are just doing clearly whatever they feel right. If they want to cut money from a charity without telling anybody, they want to sack Dan Ashworth, they want to, whatever they want to do, they seem to do. And I think we've spoken, I think, here and spoken to other Man United fans. It was almost a joke of like, do you think they'd sack Amorim? Surely not. But I'm worried for this guy and I back this guy. And I think that we have to be behind him because I think he's saying a lot of the right things. But the way that this club is run, it's starting to concern me as to what's going on in their minds.
I mean, Crookie, there's a lot to unpick here. From a fan perspective, we talk about the players. These players, Leopards won't change their spots. These lot will get Amorim sacked. They're not good enough. They're awful. You could talk about formations to the cows come home, but for Lisandro Martinez, like say, can't pick up a straight line Isak who just runs in the box like that to score. If they can't pass 5 yards, if they can't finish, if they can't do all these basics, forget Amorim's ideas and philosophies and tactics. So don't change it. So where do you stand on the players, Crookie, and also where do you stand on how to stem this bleed? Because basically United are hemorrhaging right now, and how do you think Amorim, the best way for him to go around stopping that, stemming that, or is it just no? This is the idea. The players will be exposed. If we get relegated, we get relegated.
Yeah, listen, I don't think we will get relegated. I think there are some people in that squad and certainly in the ownership group who deserve to get relegated, but obviously us as fans don't deserve that. And I think, again, we'll probably talk about the Joshua Zirkzee situation, but that apart, I thought the fans were tremendous on Monday night, really stuck with the team and showed their faith in the manager. I tweeted that there's going to be more dark days before there are brighter ones because we've got Liverpool away on Sunday. I know we ground out a 0-0 there last season. That isn't going to happen again. Yeah. That's going to be another battering. Then it's Arsenal away in the FA Cup. We never win at Arsenal. Even in our pomp, we don't win at the Emirates, and we've lost there already under Amorim, so that's going to be painful as well, and an early exit as holders of that particular title. But I think it's imperative now that Ruben Amorim sees out the bulk of this squad, outlast them all, and that the fans and the ownership, and Angelina's right to point out how volatile they can be. You only need to look at how they run their other sporting institutions to know that, and what they've done already. But they've got to stick by their man. They've decided upon him, probably 6 months too late. The squad doesn't really suit the way that he wants to play, but they knew that when they hired him. That's why they distanced himself from Amorim in the summer when his services were offered. But there are too many players there who just aren't fit for purpose. I could list them. Anana is not good enough, ultimately.
Yeah.
Doesn't command his area, makes too many mistakes in terms of letting in shots that he shouldn't. His distribution is not what it was billed. He needs to go. Martinez has gone backwards. I think he was probably culpable for both goals last
Definitely
night.
both.
He needs to go. Harry Maguire, admirable, the way that he just sticks out his chin, all the flack that comes his way, and put the captain's armband on last night. Not good enough. He needs to go. Dallow's gone backwards. He needs to go. Rasmus Højlund, I launched a staunch defence to you when you were talking about bringing in Gyökeres. I'm rapidly losing faith with him. Joshua Zirkzee is nowhere near a Manchester United player. I'm not even sure he's a Southampton player with the greatest respect in the world. He needs to go. Garnacho's not kicked on as we hoped. I think he is in a sort of sliding doors moment. His career is either going to take flight as we want it to, or again, he's one that maybe they can do without. There's very few players that you can make a case
Eriksen,
for keeping.
Casemiro.
Casemiro's out the door. Kobbie Mainoo, who did brilliantly when he came on, should have started the game. And for me, maybe that is on the manager. But we've tried it all. We've tried the serial winner in Mourinho. We've tried the proven elite coach in Van Gaal. We've tried the Ferguson clone in David Moyes. We've tried the club legend in Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. We've tried the up-and-coming young European manager in Erik ten Hag. And now we've got another in Ruben Amorim. Sooner or later, they're going to have to stick with a manager, and he's going to have to be allowed to transform that dressing room and mould it in his own image and get rid of the deadwood. And we've got to move away from just blaming the manager. And already there are some United fans, there's people in the media who can't wait to kick the manager. It's not the manager. This bunch of players are not good enough. They're not mentally tough enough. They don't apply themselves well enough. They don't train properly enough. They're not fit enough. They don't live well enough. Get rid of a lot of them, honestly, with one or two exceptions.
To play devil's advocate on the other side of the people who are looking at Ruben Amorim saying, well, you're tasked with coming in and you know you can't get players till the summer. We have to sell before we buy. PSR is at the absolute limit. It's your job to try and get something. You have to get something to keep your head above water to get through. What would you say to those people, Angelina? Because Crookie I agree with everything he just said, but just, a lot of people are watching this and, some Man United fans could say he's still got to get something out of us. He can't just lose 8 games on the trot. You can't be 18th. You can't be 16th. You still have to get something. Or is it a case of what Crookie said? If we have to finish 16th, so be it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do think so be it. I think people that are looking at Amorim and pointing the finger, I can understand people, maybe saying, does he maybe need to tweak things, etc. But I just think that it's a reach the way that people are speaking and the way that people are coming down on this guy, because he has changed some things. We have seen improvements. What did everyone moan about? No style of play with Erik ten Hag. What formation are they even playing in? What's going on, etc., etc. You can at least see something. Also with this guy, fair enough, the results are not happening on the pitch at the moment. Something will click eventually, I personally believe. I understand that these players are a nightmare, but I think the more that this guy pushes, and I think this is the point that he's trying to make, if I change something now, he knows that these players are going to be nudging each other like, yeah, I told you that 3 at the back won't last, all that type of stuff. If he defaults on his stance, then the mentality of these players, it will make things worse. And I agree with him in the way that he's saying that. He has to stick to this and he has to push and push and push. And I think we have to give the next 2 weeks a chance when he's going to have more training time, because he's been talking about training. I think after we get out of this really stormy situation of Liverpool and Arsenal and we progress from there, I think that's when you have to start looking at it, because anybody with a brain was going into these 3 fixtures thinking we'll be lucky to get anything out of it. I think also things off the pitch, like I've said, this guy has not been dealt an easy hand. For Marcus Rashford to treat this manager the way that he has, in my opinion, I think it's disgusting. I think he knows exactly what he's doing. And I just think that adding that onto the plate of this guy doesn't help. The one thing I'll say about him, at least he's honest. Do you honestly think that Ten Hag would have come out and admitted what everyone is thinking, that it's embarrassing? I actually rate him for that. I rate him for being real, because I think Ten Hag would have made up something about lies and fairy tales and all that stuff again.
He would have went back to when we should have beat Arsenal because of the offside goal against Garnacho.
Exactly. He'd have pulled something out of a hat, wouldn't he? And the fact that also he's taking the blame. It would be so easy for him to throw these players under the bus, and I'd probably applaud him if he did. But he is taking the blame.
We can do it for him.
Yeah, he says he won't do that, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll do it.
And again, I think that this speaks volumes as to the type of character that we've got as our coach, because these players are a mess, and he's still coming out and he's still trying to be positive but still being honest, and he's not actually saying anything about these players. And I think there's a lot of things that you have to applaud this guy for, because this is not easy. And I think, like you said, Crookie, he has to outlive these players at Old Trafford. That is the only way that this is going to get better. And like I say, it worries me with the hierarchy that they're not going to be on that same page.
That's exact, and that is why, I'll be honest. So I took a lot of flack on our stream last night. Thousands of people watching. You know, the rage is kicking in, and I a couple of my co-hosts were on there as well, and I sort of just suggested that I think he might have to tweak something just to put a bandage over this bleed, just because we've got Liverpool and Arsenal. I was sort of suggesting, it doesn't have to be necessarily formation. Could it be the tactics within the formation? Could it be the direction? Could it be maybe a few different players here or there? Could it be a 4-5-1 to pack out the midfield with 2 orthodox wingers just for one game to stem the bleed? I don't know. And I was met, oh my goodness. I opened up X the next day. Flex, you haven't got the stomach for it. You're changing your mind already. You're Amorim out, but you don't really want to say. I was met with, all I was doing was saying, does he need to maybe tweak something in the next? Because that's what worries me, Angelina. I look at Sir Jim Ratcliffe and these guys, and you say about the ruthlessness, and I'm like, Ruben speaks about having to get wins. That's the currency of what's going to make us be able to buy into the ideology of what he wants to do. And for him to get to the summer to undo this mess. We can't really bring in players in January, so we've got to wait till the summer. If he keeps losing at this rate, which is obviously relegation form, I worry that he'll get sacked. That's what I'm saying. And I want to sit here and say I'm comfortable that Inos won't do it, because like Crookie said, everything he said is right. They have to stick by this manager. If we finish 16th, we finish 16th. You undo it all. Some people are even saying if we get relegated, we get relegated. At least more than half of them will clear off in a big batch because they won't want to play in the Championship. Good. But on a serious note, it's like, that's why I was thinking, should he change something, Crookie, in the immediate, just for these 2 games? Or do you think, no, you have to just stay with what he's doing, 3-4-3, if you lose 8-0 against Liverpool, 4-0 against Arsenal, so be it.
I think it's more about changing personnel than tactics. He is wedded to this system. He made that clear when they gave him the job. So if they fire him now, Ineos, they're going to look foolish.
Yeah.
That's not to say they won't do it, because I actually think they've been a disaster so far. Right back to the summer when they were flirting with the idea of getting rid of Ten Hag, dithered, didn't manage to get a replacement, gave him a new contract, paid him more money than they should have done to go away, lavished him with new signings that don't necessarily fit into Amorim's system. Then you've got the whole Dan Ashworth debacle. Angelina's alluded to the story that we reported yesterday. They've now cut the funding to their own charity, which is another really bad look on Jim Ratcliffe. So I'm really not in the Ineos popularity camp at this moment in time. The camera panned to the stand yesterday. It was like a scene from the Muppet Show. Jason Wilcox and Omar Barada sat there watching on. What have they done so far to help this football club? They've taken it backwards. All they've done actually is given them the Glazers a shield, because nobody talks about the Glazers anymore. It's all on Ineos, Glazer's still there lurking in the background. Inos have just helped take the club
They're laughing,
further
aren't they,
back.
the Glazers? This is exactly what they wanted, someone to take the fall.
Yeah.
But to go back to your question, I think maybe Harry Amas needs to come in as a left wing back because Dallow's a disaster in that position. I think certainly Kobbie Mainoo and Agate have to be the holding midfield duo going forward. You can't ever play a Premier League game with Eriksen alongside Casemiro again, and that's the one thing that I will blame Amorim for last night because Kobbie Mainoo came on and transformed the team. Apart from that, maybe you need to encourage one of the back three to come into midfield when you're being overrun in midfield, but I don't know who that would be because, as I say, Martinez, who could be that player, looks like his confidence is shot to bits. De Ligt can't do it. Maguire certainly can't. So there could be some subtle tweaks, but he's not going to come away from that system. I think it's time to put the faith in kids. Give Toby Collier a run out if you need to. There's not funds to spend in January.
No.
There's nothing that's going to be a magic wand in this transfer window because there isn't. I'm not even sure there's going to be that much to spend in the summer. So he's got to look from within. And I think sooner or later, he did it at Sporting. He's got to look into that youth setup and take the gamble.
And that's the thing.
Because
How
the senior
difficult
pros
is that, Crookie? How difficult is it?
Senior pros are letting him down.
And that's what I'm saying. You talk about senior pros letting them down, and if you put the youngsters into this type of environment that is, toxic, it's corrosive, it's detrimental, wouldn't we just see them sink if they're not ready?
You don't know. What about Obi Martin? We talked about him. Looks like a proper player. Why not give him a game? Why not give him a run out at Arsenal in the FA Cup? What you got to lose?
Do you know what? And I had an argument with some young United fans after, a discussion, Angelina, after Spurs, right, outside the ground. And they came up to me and said this, after we lost against Spurs and Carrow, I said, Flex, listen, Chido Obi Martin can't be worse than Hoyland. Harry Amas is not worse than that. Exactly. Sekou Kone, when he gets fit, put him in midfield, all this stuff. Ibrahimov, get in and just play all the kids. And I sort of pushed back and I'm like, this is what we do as United fans. We will hang the kids out to dry. I remember young Hannibal coming on at Anfield and Harry Maguire give him an awful pass and he had to kick. And I thought, poor kid, because you got these bozos of senior pros who won't protect you. They won't help you. They won't say, listen, this is a tough atmosphere here at the Emirates. Give me the ball. Don't worry, kid. They'll throw you under the bus. Harry Amas will probably get hung out to dry, bless him. Obi Martin probably just gets starved of option. And then we're looking at it going, poor kids. And I just worry for them. But is Crookie right, Angelina? Is Crookie right? Do we just need to go, you know what? What have you got to lose?
I think at this point, what do you have to lose? I mean, I was banging on about that game a couple of months ago as to why weren't any kids being played. So at this point, I would 100% take it. I think for me, the thing that gives me hope that there would be some kind of protection, I get what you mean on the pitch, they ain't going to help them out, but the way that we've seen Ruben Amorim in the past deal with youngsters. So I think Sporting's left wing back was, a young kid who he transformed into that position and allowed him to grow and flourish in that position. I've always said, somebody like Harry Amas, who, we saw him around in pre-season. I'm not too sure. I think maybe I had an injury at some point as well. But, I think at this point, you've got to give them a chance, 1000%, because I don't see any of these players that we've got, what they can bring to the table. And why not give the kids a go? You've got I think Ethan Wheatley as well, who's quite a good goal scorer. What do we have to lose at this point? I get this thing about, protecting the players and everything, but you got to think of their mentality and the way that Ruben Amorim will be speaking to them. This is a huge opportunity for these players, and you have to hope that they will grab it with both hands and that they've not been tainted by this current Man United team, that this kind of fresh energy could actually be a positive.
That's true, the freshness, that's a good point, yeah.
Yeah, but my only concern is that, with things like the media and certain fans and stuff, we've seen the way that Kobbie Mainoo, people are speaking about him. It's ludicrous for people to put all our hopes and dreams on a teenager.
Yeah.
So I worry about the way that it could be perceived by people, because I think Kobbie Mainoo's had a couple of bad games and people are just hating on him and piling on. I don't want to see that. But I would like to think the majority of Manchester United fans, a few let us down last night with Joshua Zirkzee, but you would think the majority of Manchester United fans, understand the assignment and would get behind them.
Yeah, I mean, and on that, Crookie mentioned it earlier, he said apart from, the Joshua Zirkzee situation, the fans did really well. On that, look, when I was watching the game on our stream, he wasn't playing well. A few times I went after him in terms of what is he doing. But in terms of, I obviously had the sound down, so we don't have the sound coming through. I wasn't aware that he was actually being booed off or clapped off, and that is, again, that's not helpful, is it? That I know we're frustrated as fans, but that's not how we should be treating our players, regardless of whether they've dropped a 0 out of 10 or not. Like, it's embarrassing to come off that early. You've got to get it done. He's struggling for confidence.
Could have been anyone, though.
And that's the thing. He shouldn't be skating, because actually after 33 minutes, he could have made 11 changes. Let's be honest.
Yeah, but you know what it is? I think, it's a reaction to the last decade, maybe longer than that, actually, of the wretched Glazer regime. But also, it's the toxicity that Inos have created. You know, the redundancies, getting rid of Sir Alex for his ambassadorial role, cutting Christmas bonuses, cutting money for former players, cutting funding for the charity. And I think, unfortunately, Xerxes felt the brunt of that from some United fans. There'll be people inside that ground, a lot of people inside that ground. Manchester's a small place, who will know people who worked for the club for a number of years, who are being directly impacted by these ruthless cuts that Ineos are making to keep people like Anthony, and I don't want to scapegoat him, there are others, to keep highly paid players living in the lifestyle they're accustomed. If these players have got any guts and any balls and any sense of worth, they will come out and say, do you know what? We don't deserve our wages for December. We've let you down. We're going to put some of our wages into the pot so the charity doesn't have to take a cut.
What the heck?
Yeah.
I mean, you're right. You're right.
I agree.
They should do that.
There was a situation as well I read that when one of Ineos' other bright ideas, when they stopped the funds for members of staff to go to Wembley, to stay in accommodation, to go to the game.
Bruno tried to make up for that.
Bruno tried to do something and it was denied. And I'm assuming that's an Ineos thing that they've said, no, you can't do that.
Yeah, because it's going to undermine them. They're going to feel like if the players give in their wages and start paying for the things they've revoked.
There's nothing to stop you donating to a charity. And I mean, especially not even just the Man United Foundation, but the association that helps players. These are players, for people that don't understand, people, watching that maybe don't know everything about it. These are players that might have played for United decades ago and didn't earn any of that money. They help fund funerals for ex-players that maybe their families aren't in the strongest financial.
It's an absolute disgrace.
They also have annual events at Old Trafford for this charity. They have to pay to rent it out. United don't even give them the space to have fundraisers. And the fact that nobody told them that they get paid 10 grand every quarter, and they've looked and said, hang on, we're missing 2 payments here. No one even told them. They had to get in touch and send 2 letters for Omar Barada to ring them and say, yeah, you ain't getting your money. I'll come and have a chat with you in January, but don't expect it to change. Even the way, the PR around this club at the minute, how are all some of it's financial and it's there for public consumption, but how are some of these stories getting out? The PR around how it's being handled, the lack of communication, and then the cherry on top of it, Sir Jim Ratcliffe does an interview with the United fanzine and says that the Glazers are great people. The whole thing just stinks. And
he also said that it's not right that Fulham fans are paying more tickets than Manchester United fans. Yeah. Have a look at the table, Jim.
Exactly.
Fulham are better than us.
Exactly.
They're better to watch.
But again, this is why Sir Jim Ratcliffe doesn't understand. As much as he likes to throw this I grew up on a council estate card, it's a load of rubbish. Because when you look at how much it costs to live in Fulham...
Exactly. South West London is not an easy postcode, mate.
You're comparing it to a ticket prices in Fulham. The average house price in Fulham is over 1.3 million, almost 5 times the going rate for a house around Old Trafford. So even that, you're just thinking, what are you talking about?
Just economically tone deaf.
And again, he wants to, this narrative of, I grew up in Failsworth, I grew up on a council estate, I understand. And yet people that work the socks off, stewards don't even get a bonus.
The whole atmosphere around Old Trafford has become so toxic as a direct result of what the Glazers historically and what Ineos are doing now.
Mm.
Yeah, it's...
Who puts up the cost of disabled parking bays?
And you know what? You try to, and this is the thing that's why Man United is so broken, because we try to talk about just the tactics or just the formation or players that are surplus, but you do have to look at Ineos, who have come in and they were tasked with having to, taken us forward and given us something. And again, like I said, as soon as that Dan Ashworth thing happened, when people said to me, "Yeah, you're just overreacting, Flex. At least they've showed that it doesn't work, so they've been really ruthless to fix it." No, it shows incompetence. And now what you've done is also divvied out that role that was so important for us to have amongst people who weren't supposed to have it. So is Jason Wilcox even qualified to do that? He done his.
Well, it wasn't that long ago. He was academy
Exactly.
chief at Manchester
Is it
City.
just
And by the way, look at the league table. Southampton, the team that he helped get back to the Premier League, he would have had a big say in who they were signing in the summer because the targets would have already been set out before he left for United. They're bottom. Jason Wilcox at the turn of the year, 20th and 14th in the Premier League.
And that's what we've got to start looking at.
You just question what the thought process is. In February, Jim Ratcliffe said that Dan Ashworth is a 10 out of 10 sporting director, one of the best around. So that's February, and by the end of the year, he ain't worth anything, and he's out the door. How can your opinion on someone change that much?
I have to ask as well, just going back to the game last night, Crookie, the Marcus Rashford situation. Now, again, I've been taking a lot of pelters from my own fan base and community. I took pelters as soon as I joined our stream yesterday. I went, "Oh, Marcus Rashford's back in the squad." And I said, well, okay, I hope he's met the standards then. He shouldn't just be here because we're a few players light. As long as if he's met the standards and he's trained well and Ruben Amorim has seen, he can tick his cross checklist and say, right, you've done this, no problem, you're available for selection. Got no problem with that. But it shouldn't be because we're a few players light. And I saw Ruben speak before the game and he sort of said some players are outside. We've sort of got some players out and obviously went on to not use him. And some guys are saying to me, "Oh, well, it shows Marcus Rashford an even bigger lesson. Put your tracksuit on, come and sit on the bench, and I still won't use you." And I went like, "Well, that's pointless. That's pointless. He's out the squad." What did you make of that?
In the squad, if he was doing that, if he wasn't going to use him,
exactly. Crookie, was that? Look, Marcus Rashford didn't play yesterday, but what did you make of the situation?
I think the reason they didn't do that is because they probably felt as a football club it would have devalued him even more. It would have made it really obvious that they were trying to sell him. The fact he's then put him on the bench, not used him when they're getting pummeled at home, I think is a fairly big indication anyway. I was torn on this. At the end of the game, with 10 minutes to go, I said to my lad, this is a little bit humiliating for Marcus now. I think maybe this has gone too far. But then I go back to the start of the game, when the teams are coming out and he's sat in the dugout and the camera pans to him. He's got his face covered up. He's hunched over. He looks like he'd rather be anywhere else than the Theatre of Dreams. It looks like it's his worst nightmare. I think actually your body language is not doing you any favours here. And if that's the body language that he's been showing day in, day out in training, I don't blame Amorim for not picking him. So I'm torn. I think the sooner this comes to a conclusion where he leaves the football club, the better, because there really doesn't seem to be a way back now.
Is that it's over for you, Angelina? There's no way back. I thought maybe him being in the squad, if he can get an appearance, maybe, you never know. Things change in football really quickly. But is that it for you?
I have really strong opinions on this, and I get that not everybody agrees. But for me, and this is nothing about the interview that Marcus Rashford did, because I thought, from someone like Henry Winter, it's excellent journalism. But from looking at Marcus Rashford, to make the decision to do that, I don't particularly want to see him in a Man United shirt again. And I get that not everyone will agree with that. But for me, you have taken the mick out of this club time and time and time again. This is the club that has brought you through, that has given you fans, the club, some amazing moments. I get off the pitch, he's done some amazing work. I get that I don't know what's going on with Marcus Rashford, and I will happily eat my words if I hear something that shuts me up. Do you know what I mean? But for me, last season, you're going out to Belfast. It's reportedly known within Manchester that, he likes to go to nightclubs and things like that. We have seen it reported. Then Ruben Amorim comes in. Fair enough, he was given permission to go to the US. But you would just think, you know what? I think I can go to a basketball game another time. Do I really need to do that? Should I maybe go and meet this manager and see what's going on? And to make the decision to give that interview that basically insinuates that you want out of this club, no player is bigger than my club. And if Jadon Sancho gets sidelined for stupid, petty social media stuff and having a spat with Ten Hag, to go to the media and say what he said, no, it's completely disrespectful. It's completely and utterly disrespectful. And I get it's a tough time, but no one else is going around doing that. And I just think there are zero positives of including him. He wants out. He has said in that interview he wants a new challenge. I know that Henry Winter has said that his interpretation of it was that he wants to leave. So why should Amorim waste any time trying to rebuild with strong foundations with a player that doesn't want to be there? And I know that there's been reports today about even this whole Saudi situation. I can't see Rashford going to Saudi, to be completely honest.
I can't see that.
But reportedly that all 18 of the clubs in the Saudi Pro League are at their maximum quota. I think
he doesn't want to go to Saudi anyway. Spain's his preferred destination, I'm told.
But it's not, people that are grasping at straws thinking, maybe Saudi, they're at their quota of foreign players over the age of 21. So it's not even like, what are the options? And there's been reports that, other clubs were maybe interested and things. But it's like you say, Crookie, who's going to buy him? Who is actually interested? And all he did was make the situation even harder for the club to try and get rid of him. What did Ronaldo do when he wanted to leave the first time round? Spoke to Fergie and said, I want out. Fergie said to him, can you give me one more season? And he gave him one more season. I get we don't have a Sir Alex Ferguson, but if you love this club so much and you have been brought up through this club, why couldn't you have tried to negotiate a situation where United come out of it with a bit of money and you come out of it with the respect of the fans?
Well, it seems Crookie, though, the pushback to that, just on the other side of what Angelina's saying, which is true, is that Marcus has apparently felt aggrieved that it's been put out into the media, that he's up for sale. Man United are interested in taking offers, and his camp didn't know. So it seems to me, especially with Ruben Amorim's comments a few days ago, I don't know if you saw them, when he said sometimes it's not always the player who says this, they get advised, etc., etc. And he said they did this, essentially is what he said, how I read those quotes, or watched it anyway. And it's like his camp said, well, they're telling everyone that they're going to sell you. We didn't really know about this. Tell you what, we'll say you want to leave anyway. That's what it felt like. Really, really ill-advised.
Yeah, I think he has been ill-advised. I think it's been a big part of the problem for Marcus Rashford for several years now. The entourage that he surrounds himself, have they really got his best interests at heart? And I think the answer to that is no.
Yeah. There you go, guys. We got Liverpool next at Anfield. We'll leave it there. I don't even think we need to do predictions, really, do we? Should we?
Really
we know what it's going to be.
You have to play it. Could you not just forfeit it?
Just give them 3. Just surrender 3. I'll take that now. Yeah.
Next time on the training pitch.
Sacrificial Sunday, mate. That's what it's going to be. It's going to be... I don't even want to... Oh, my... Oh, honestly. We need to end this show now, guys. Thank you, guys, for watching. It's a tough time. More tough times will come. The L against Liverpool is incoming. The L against Arsenal the week after at the Emirates is coming. We have to, like we say, batten down on the hatches, and hopefully we can beat Southampton in that 6-pointer at Old Trafford, because I can't see where we're going to buy a win from. You've been watching Inside Devils. Big shout out to Crookie as always, and Angelina as always as well. We'll see you on the next episode. It's tough time, guys. Stick together.